Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Peyton. I am the well-seasoned traveler. Thank you for joining me today. Just a bit about me. I am a hotel consultant. I am an events and conference planner, and I also help Black and Brown folks leave the US and find their joy in other countries. So today I just want to talk a little bit about how I went about discovering Mexico and where I was going to ultimately live in Mexico. So during COVID, about 6 months before the end of all of the unemployment cutoff, my apartment was going, my lease was up, and I didn't really know what to do. I had Googled around and found that some people were going to Mexico, and so I decided to go. I plotted a bit of an itinerary out through Mexico and closed my apartment, sold all my stuff, gave away everything, sold everything else, and put some boxes in my mom's apartment in New Jersey. Actually, I put boxes in my brother's house in New Jersey and left and started in Merida. Started in Merida because Merida considers itself a walkable city, and I love walkable cities. However, walkable means different things to different people, and Merida's not really walkable. It's walkable if you don't mind. If in a small, it's walkable in small areas. It's not. You can't walk from one section of town to the other. There are no trees. There's no shade, and it is hot like the sun. It is living on the surface of the sun. The people in Merida live on the surface of the sun, and they love it, and God bless them for it. But it was not for me. So after that, I decided to check out Playa del Carmen. I'd been to Cancun before. I'm not really the biggest beach person. I like to overlook the water. I like to sit in restaurants that overlook the ocean. I like to sit in apartments that overlook the ocean, but I don't ever need to be on the beach. I don't need to be one with the sand and the ocean and yada yada. So between Playa del Carmen and Cancun, I hadn't been to Playa del Carmen, and Cancun is a tourist destination, and there's nothing I hate more than tourist destinations. As a person in tourism, I really shouldn't say that, but tourist destinations are the worst. They tend to be poorly planned. They tend to be overrun with people who don't know where they're going or what they're doing, and that drives me bonkers. So I chose Playa del Carmen to just so I could sit on the beach, ideally overlooking the ocean. I did not end up overlooking the ocean, but I did end up close to a really good taco spot that had great vegetarian tacos. So it was a win in my book. Excuse me. So I knew that Cancun was out for me. I knew any tourist destination. Playa del Carmen was as close as I was going to get. And at that point, I was still in the off season, so I knew it wasn't going to be too crazy with people. And COVID was still around. So I figured it would be an easy place for me to go and not feel overwhelmed by tourists. And I was right. It was a great destination, particularly for Black and Brown folks. There are people who have been in and out. It is a transient destination still, but there are plenty of Black folks there who have built their lives there or are currently building their lives there. So it was a really wonderful place to meet up with some other Black folks and just kind of get into the Mexican culture together. Right. So after I left Playa del Carmen, I knew that there were some other places that I wanted to see. So before I made it to Oaxaca, which was like the number one place on my list and really was the place that I thought I was going to end up living. For the sole fact that it's the arts capital of Mexico City, and I'm an art lover. So I assumed Oaxaca, it has more than 1 million people. Is that true? Maybe just under 1 million people. And that's kind of, my cutoff. I don't really like living any place with less than 1 million people. 1.5 million is better. So, but I wanted to try a few places before I hit Oaxaca. So I headed to Veracruz because I know that there is a Black population there. However, Veracruz is a port city, and there is nothing I hate more than port cities. I don't know why it is. There's something about those port cities, mostly because they tend to be built in places that are overcast, and the overcast really brings me down. So I stayed in Veracruz I don't even think I made it 3 days. I didn't make it to Boca Chica. I was in downtown in Centro Veracruz, and it was not the joint. It was not the joint for me. There is, a little walking area on the pier or at the port. and you can walk along the water. It just was not, there was nothing there, in my opinion, it was actually one of the first places in Mexico, and so far the only place in Mexico that I've been that I was like, I don't feel safe here. Just because it was really super run down in Centro, or just outside of Centro. Once you kind of walk and turn the corner, you're now suddenly in a place where you're walking along the beach, but if you look to the opposite direction, it's crumbling buildings and not pretty graffiti, just graffiti. So Veracruz, I had to hightail it out of there. I was also staying, I booked a room through booking.com, so I was staying in a hotel. I thought I could handle a hotel for 30 days. They put me in a room with no windows. I didn't understand that. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you put somebody who's staying for 30 days in a room with 0 windows? It was atrocious. So I had to get up out of there. And from there, I think I went straight to Oaxaca from there. I think I just was over it and was just like, let me just go to Oaxaca. I know I want to be there. Let me just go check it out. So I did. And I fell in love with Oaxaca. I spent 6 or 7 weeks there. I can't remember, staring at a mountain. Just the most beautiful mountains, beautiful people, incredible food, art going up left and right all the time, new street art all the time. Absolutely amazing. The only problem with Oaxaca was I'm still too young, in my opinion, to be living there. I need a little bit more life, a little bit more energy. I think for me, if I were in my late 60s, early 70s, I'd probably move to Oaxaca. I don't know how I'm going to be in my 60s and 70s, but at this point, being in the mountains makes me very happy. I love the trees. I love that kind of topography where you look out and you can see the mountains, and seeing the sun rises and sets over the mountains. It just makes me happy. So I think Oaxaca is the kind of place that I could see myself retiring. It's still enough of a city, but it's small enough that it feels manageable. It doesn't feel big and loud and booming and overwhelming like other big cities do, but it still has enough city that you can go out and enjoy yourself, have a good time. They have festivals everywhere. They had a man dance who's dressed up as corn, and I was like, I have really been missing out because I have never seen a man dressed up as corn, and this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I was there during Gelagetska, which I'm saying incorrectly, but they still hadn't fully come back from COVID, so it wasn't the huge festival that it normally is. There were just some people dancing in the streets and that sort of thing. It was still absolutely amazing, and really, I just fell in love with Oaxaca and could see myself retiring there long term. It's just not the place for me right now while I'm still young enough to want to, be in a city and try new things and do new things and go new places. Not clubs, because I'm not that young, but still just feel the hustle and bustle of a city. I still want that, and I still love that feeling. So after Oaxaca, I went back to the States, but I had an inkling at that point that Mexico was the place I wanted to be. I did travel to Ecuador and Colombia to check them out as well, but I kind of, once I'd been to those 2 countries, I was like, Mexico is it. Nothing makes me happier than Mexico. So I went back to Mexico to continue to explore, to find the city that I was going to live in. After Oaxaca, I went to Puebla. Well, when I went back to Mexico, I went to Puebla and Guadalajara, 2 great cities, which if I had kids, I would consider Puebla or Guadalajara. They are both city life, but they both felt easy enough that if you had kids, it still gave you that access to the city if you were a city person, but easy enough to live if you have children, that you don't feel like, I know being like in New York City, it just feels like you get beat up left and right there, and having kids makes it even harder. I didn't feel that way in Guadalajara and Puebla. I felt like those were 2 manageable cities that you could easily have kids and raise kids there. It would be a good place for kids to grow up and still give you that access to city. Guadalajara more so than Puebla, but it would still give you that access to city, that city life that you want. Guadalajara more so than Puebla. Guadalajara is bigger than Puebla. But Puebla is a nice little city if you like small cities. Puebla is a great small city, and being able to see that volcano all the time, oh, beautiful. Nothing better. Absolutely stunning. After Puebla and Guadalajara, I will say the thing about Puebla and Guadalajara, although I highly recommend them, I lived in the wrong location in both places. And so location really is everything in those cities. You have to live in the right area. In Guadalajara, I think it's the Americas, which has kind of the restaurants and the shops and the people and the cocktails and the coffee shops and that kind of thing. It has all of the life there in the Americas. And then in Puebla, I'm not really sure where it was. Again, it's a much smaller city. So I was about a 20-minute walk from Centro, and I really liked the Centro area. It's not very big, but it really did feel like a nice little city. And being able to walk around Puebla, they have some great parks. But you have to pick the right area in Puebla to make it kind of worth your time and worth your while to live there. All right. After Puebla, I decided to give a beach another go and chose Mazatlan. It was between Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. And honestly, the money pushed me to Mazatlan. Puerto Vallarta was too expensive at the time. So I went to Mazatlan and spent a month there. And it really just solidified that I'm not a beach person. Unless it's a city on the beach like California, there's not enough life in a beach town for me. It starts to feel, oddly enough, it starts to feel stale after a while, even though there's nothing better than staring at the ocean. There doesn't feel like there was enough life there, or I couldn't find the life there. Again, I was also living between two of sort of the major areas. So I was in the center, and if you go further north up Mazatlan, there's like a bunch of stuff. And then further south, there are also better areas to live. I walked to both areas. For me, there just isn't enough life happening in Mazatlan, although it is just stunning and some of the most beautiful sunsets that I had seen. And then I, really accidentally fell in love with Mexico City. Like I said before, I ended up there in a layover, 16 hours or something like that, went into the Salvador Dali Museum and was like, oh, wow, this is it. So I visited Mexico City a couple more times just to make sure that it's really where I wanted to be. And every time I've been there, I've just been so happy and content and feeling like this is a place where I could build a life and make some friends and be happy and explore and see art and, kind of have the cosmopolitan life that I really want right now. So Mexico City kind of hit me like a bag of bricks. I was not expecting it. I was expecting not to like it because I don't like New York City. I don't like San Francisco. I don't like super big, dense cities. But because Mexico City is like Los Angeles in that it's spread out, it doesn't have the density feeling that San Francisco and New York have because they're obviously islands and so much smaller and much higher density. So it made Mexico City just the perfect place for me. So I hope that helps you a little bit with Mexico. I recommend giving Mexico a shot. There are a lot of Black people going to Mexico. There are a lot of Black communities being built in Mexico. Oaxaca has a great Black community. Mexico City obviously has a great Black community. Merida has a great Black community. Playa del Carmen as well. I don't know too much about Guadalajara's Black community. I know that some people have moved there. I know, what's the place? San Miguel de Allende has a Black community as well. So there are a good number of us in Mexico, and it is a place that I recommend checking out if you are thinking, as you were looking at your move abroad plans. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Peyton. I'm the Well-Seasoned Traveler. And please like and subscribe. Do all the things, all the YouTube things. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the cities that I mentioned, or if you have a favorite city. I'd love to hear what your favorite city is in Mexico in the comments. And yeah, that's it for today. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.